West Virginia News is pleased to welcome Governor Jim Justice to today's Editorial Board session. Governor, at this point, we usually give candidates a chance to introduce themselves, but as the governor and a well-known successful businessman, most people probably already know who you are, but please, we invite you to give an opening statement or bio information as you so choose.
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me. And, I can tell you that it's been an honor. It's really been an honor to serve as your governor. It's surely an honor to run for re-election. I'm a real believer, in West Virginia. I love our state more than good sense, and I surely love our people exactly the same amount. I tell everybody all the time, there may be someone that loves our state as much as me or our people as much as me, but there's not going to be anybody that loves them anymore. And so with all that being said, that's the whole reason that I'm here. I decided to run for governor for the right reasons. And everyone should always remember that. I don't take a dime. And really and truly being your governor has cost me and my family probably tens of millions of dollars because, one thing, you ended up with a federal investigation that probably took some years off of all of our lives. And through all of that, you spent all kinds of monies from business going away to sponsorships going away to losing the golf tournament because of all that, to paying attorneys, to all the stuff you had to do. And at the end of the day, what do they find? Nothing, zero. And so, this job is tough. It's surely not a financial asset from the standpoint that it has been a big a big not obligation, but it's surely not a positive financial thing. I didn't want it to be. I want to do exactly what I've said and I set out to do, and that's to serve the people and to do goodness for West Virginia. I think I've really done so. I'm going to let you guys ask your questions, and I'll end up with some other comments. But again, thank you for having me.
Very well, Governor. Thank you very much. And, when you came into office 4 years ago, you made it very clear you're not a politician, but goodness, you've had to handle a whole bunch of problems in politics during your first term, from the teacher strikes to now COVID-19. Along the way, I think you would say there's been a lot of positives, and we want to give you a chance to tell us what you see as those accomplishments.
Oh gosh, and I say this all the time. If we were to really list and just speak accomplishment after accomplishment, there's a lot of them. But to give you how I looked at the state of West Virginia, first of all, I was given a set of books. Anybody in the right mind, if they were fair, that knew anything about business, would say the state was bankrupt. Period. I don't care what anybody says. Dead bankrupt. Nowhere to turn. We drained the rainy day fund to the lowest, to a level that we couldn't drain it anymore, or our bonds would be derated. There was nowhere to go other than just make additional massive cuts. And that's all the creativity, I hate to say it, that we had going on in Charleston, was just make more cuts. Well, if you make more cuts, you drive more people away. And so we had to come up with new ideas. And so we came up with the roads to prosperity. Everybody said, no way, no way. The biggest of all time was 500 million. We said we're going to do 2.5 or 3 billion. And so no way, no way. Well, we passed it 73% of the vote. We put a stake in the sand that said education ought to be our centerpiece. That started changing our image. Really and truly, the very first thing everybody looks at is schools. The next thing everybody looks at is roads. And right behind that, everything else started to happen. West Virginia started to really move in a real positive way. And people started to come, and absolute jobs started to happen. All of a sudden, West Virginia ends up with real money, a money stream that is really beginning to happen. And then along the way comes a teacher strike. Well, you're talking to somebody that's in the schools 5 months out of the year when I'm coaching. And absolutely, you're talking to somebody that has a soft spot in his heart. And this is not a political answer. I don't give that, but for our teachers and all the good work that they do. And a lot of times how they're just kind of taken for granted and that's not good either. So when we got in this food fight, we got in a food fight that started with me in the state of the state saying, the first state of the state saying, I want to do a 2% pay raise for the teachers. And then really and truly, we got into an absolute food fight where the Republicans, were at odds maybe with the teachers, and the Democrats were aligned with the teachers. And before you knew it, where was Jim? And Jim stood steadfast on what he stood for all along. And that was just this. And that was truly getting our teachers and our service personnel and all of our people a significant pay raise. And right behind that, from a charter school standpoint, I was always for doing 2 or 3 pilot charter schools to just see how it would work. But I was always an absolute supporter of the public school system. So I had to stand really firm. And I had a lot of people within my own party at that time as Republicans didn't like it. But I stood there, didn't I? I stood rock solid. And when all the teacher strike was going on and everything, I went out and a lot of people threw a lot of rocks and garbage at me. But I stood right, rock solid. And right in a lot of ways, in more of an education camp than any governor's ever been, and we passed the biggest pay raises in history. Now, right behind that, guys, just think of all the different things that have happened from Easy Pass. $8 a year, you're going down the road for next to nothing and going and getting away from all that hassle, and really and truly, 76% of the people that are driving on the turnpike are from out of state, and they're really contributing in a lot of ways to the roads to prosperity and everything else. And we're really cruising up and down the turnpike with an easy pass. It's a neat thing. You think about the veterans. I'm thinking about things that you would miss, but you think about the veterans and me being at the Barbersville, at the veterans home down there, and the guys coming up to me saying, the only thing we really want is we want our retirement exempted. And then we were in session at the time, and I said, I will do it today. And we went back and got behind it, and lo and behold, boom, boom, done. Think about the elderly and the Social Security, getting rid of the Social Security tax on, for our elderly. Just think about, what tourism has done in this state. We said right off the get-go, we're going to absolutely be proud of our own pond. And lo and behold, tourism has exploded beyond belief. Think about what's going on in DNR from the standpoint of our parks and how we've renovated our parks, $100 million of renovation to our parks. And you can't even you're waitlisted to get a cabin for a year in our parks. The biggest problem we got in our parks today is we got to find a way to build a bigger parking lot. Think about it. And then all of a sudden, if that's not enough for you, then add in Hyperloop. Me saying that I was going to take you on a rocket ship ride, and lo and behold, look what is happening. I just went and opened up a 4-lane highway in Wyoming County, the Coalfield Express. First one ever in the county. You see Quarter H going, you see the Coalfield Expressway going. Absolutely, it's just happening. You see the airport up at Bridgeport exploding. It's happening all over the place, and it's happening exactly like I surely hoped and prayed it would do. And the biggest thing that you got to remember is the last point is just this. We went through a pandemic year, the god-awful stuff in the world, with the income tax revenue removed and the pandemic right in our lap, and came through it with a surplus. You kidding me? Are you kidding me? And right behind that, we've got 2021, and we've got a cash surplus right now of between 250 and 300 million dollars. Every month we continue to beat estimates and everything. That's going to enable us to just do more and more and more, whether it be highways or whatever it may be. But literally, I'm telling you, this state's cooking right now, and we just need to keep it moving and keep it moving that way.
Well, Governor, I do want to interject there. I really want to thank you for your vision and your support for NCWV Airport and the Aerotech Park. It truly, truly has the potential to add another $1 billion of economic impact that airport's making right now.
That's great. It can't really and truly, Andy, when they brought me the idea of the airport and the vision of the airport, I don't know if you were here. You may have been
I
here.
was.
And how long did it take me? I looked at it and said, my God, a living. This is a go right now. But and so you know, I salute all of you and all the great work y'all are doing in that area. I mean, really and truly, that's a no-brainer. And that will bring so many jobs and so much opportunity to us. It's unbelievable, and we need it really bad.
Well, it's been a whirlwind. You know, we talk about rocket ships and everything, and you're asking for a second term. So the question has to be asked is, where does the rocket ship go in the second term?
Well, here's where I think we'll end up. You know, I hope and pray our president wins, and with all that, and it's going to be tough and everything, but I think it can happen. And with all that, regardless, one way or another, we're going to end up with a federal infrastructure program. It's probably going to be to the tune of a couple $1 trillion. You know, with our president winning, we'll be assured that West Virginia will get their fair share. If our president loses, I'll sure fight like crazy for West Virginia to get their fair share. But with that, I see us being able to continue doing significant improvements to our highways and building highways, our arteries completed in West Virginia. Now, with the announcement of Hyperloop, you know, validates us in a lot of ways. You know, we were moving and moving significantly, but now you have real validation. And at the end of the day, you know, guys, as long as you have a state that's I mean, what is my job really at the end of the day? My job, you know, my job is naturally to comfort and take care of everybody. And I'm really, really proud of what we've done through the pandemic and pushing the right buttons at the right time to make sure that we absolutely did the right stuff. And I think the numbers would reflect we really did the right stuff at the right time. But really my job, the way I see it, my job is to manage the economics of this state to where they're so good that we can do a lot of stuff. We can do the things to make all the moves to make our lives better and everything. We can encourage and incentivize business. We can do things. We keep taxes low and make people want to come to our state. My job, first and foremost, has got to be the economics of what we're doing. Now, with all that being said, and I've said it a bunch of times, but and sometimes my folksy type sayings and everything, they just don't resonate. But you got to think about this. I truly believe, I believe with all in me, that where West Virginia is going to end up in the years to come is we're going to end up as a state to where all the things that other states had, the nice things that we wanted that we didn't have, we will have. And all the nasty things that maybe they have, we won't have many of those. And the net of the whole thing is every day on top of that, we'll be able to live in paradise. Because when you go outside and open the door, it is paradise. And you talk to your neighbors, they are great people. And so at the end of the day, I mean, really and truly, when it really boils right down to it, guys, you know, I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen, but absolutely, I know from being a business guy that when you put all the pieces of the puzzle in play, it's going to happen. It's happening right this minute, and it's going to continue to happen too.
Governor, I wanted to follow up on something before we got too far away from it. So could you talk just a little bit about, hypothetically, if you are reelected and the president is not, do you think you'll be able to work well with a Biden-Harris administration? I know it probably won't be as close of a working relationship as you've had with the Trump administration, but how do you think that would go?
I mean, it'll go as good as it can possibly go. I mean, you know, from the standpoint, everyone knows, I mean, I ran as a Democrat, you know, and I changed parties. But at the same time, I mean, I have said 1,000 times over, and I mean this, I really don't care in my heart if you're a Democrat or Republican or independent. I really only care about people being West Virginians and being Americans and literally trying to do good stuff for our state and our nation. And I'll be able to work with Joe Biden. I mean, even at Christmas, that won't be any big time problem if he were elected, you know. And to tell it like it is, you know, his feelings about slamming the door, you know, on fossil fuels and shutting down fracking and everything else. When his people, I mean, when his people really get around him and advise him, he'll find out that that's an impossibility today. No matter what any of us would think, or no matter what any of us say, that is impossible for America to do today. It's suicidal. Now, I hope and pray they aren't suicidal, and if they're suicidal, then it's going to be really difficult for all of us. But really and truly, it is impossible for that to happen today.
Governor, let's talk a little bit about, there's like 2 or 3 questions I want to get to that kind of touch on this, but let's first look at the party switch just real quick. Do you feel like you're the same person, principle-wise, you know, view-wise, that you were when you took office 4 years ago?
Well, I sure do. You know, I'll tell you over and over, no matter what anybody ever says, you know, I grew up in a Republican family all my life. I ran as a Democrat. I never took this office in any way, shape, form, or fashion. You know, that's one of my sayings, with the thought to change parties. I worked like a blooming dog to get a budget passed that was good for all of us and everything. And we got right to the finish line. And really, a lot of people said, well, the governor changed parties. Well, I'm going to tell you guys, you can cut it any way you want to cut it. But really and truly, what happened was the Democrats left me. And they left me standing there holding the bag. I mean, I had 26 Republican House votes on everything in the world that could have helped their constituency, helped the elderly and helped the poor, and with tax rebate checks to people that had $10,000 of income or $20,000. I mean, I had all kinds of things for our veterans, our 2% pay raise for our teachers. I had it all in a bundle, and had 26 House votes on the Republican side. And Tim Armstead said, I can assure you that. I can't believe that I'll be one of those votes, but I will. And I went right straight to the Democrat caucus, proposed it all, and Spinagle, or whatever the guy's name is, was the only one in the caucus that came out and said anything bad. I said, we're done. We're done. And 2 hours later, Tim Armstead called and said, Miley called and said you had 3 or 4 votes. And what we were in an absolute food fight, because the Democrats, they were fighting with the Republicans, and really and true, we just left West Virginia. Who cares about West Virginia? We went right into, we're not doing it because by God, the Republicans will do it. And at that point in time, you can criticize me all day long, but I am only here to get something done. And I knew of my relationship with the president, and I knew right that minute of what I had to do. And so, no, I feel you're talking to the same guy that arrived here, same values, same principles. That's just me.
Do you think that if you were still a Democrat, that you would have the teachers organization's endorsement?
Would I have the teachers organization what now?
Endorsement.
Let me answer that. You know, the way it looks, you know, with what I've done for the teachers, I mean, my God, 11, you just think, let's step back and think. I got rid of the A through F grading. I got rid of all this unnecessary testing that was going on. I put all kinds of local control in and everything else. I gave them the biggest pay raises back to back anybody could ever do in history and put $100 million in PEIA, and their insurance has not increased a dime since I've been here. Whose insurance across America has not increased every year? Everybody's hit, but not theirs. Now, I've done all that, and they endorsed the Democrats. So I would tell you that if Pluto the damn dog was running as a Democrat, that's who they would endorse. And so it wouldn't matter about me or anybody. You know, that's who the union bosses would endorse.
Well, let's talk about a little bit, let's go right to that. And, you know, your opponent has said that he would call a special session and try to address additional pay for teachers and service personnel. As the governor who provided back-to-back 5% pay raises, record pay raises, you know what that takes. You know the amount of money that it takes. And your opponent has said he'll do that without raising taxes. Is that possible?
You know, guys, I don't know how to answer it. I mean, you know, my opponent, you know, piggybacks off of all the good that I've done and then says, well, this is what I do. I mean, give me a break. I mean, really and truly, when it really boils right down to it, first of all, you're talking about, you know, somebody that's agreeing the cows won't eat it, you know, and you know, but with all that being said, the you know, you're talking about I said a few minutes ago, all the economic engine that's running in the state today, and I don't want to, it sounds egotistical that I would say because of me, it's because of all the work that my people, all my administration, all the good stuff that we have done, legislature, all the great people that have put in place. Now, because of that, there's a real possibility that we can do additional pay raises for our teachers. But it isn't because of Ben Salango. I mean, it isn't because of anything to do with Ben Salango. I mean, it's because of what we've done since the day I walked in the door. So are the pay raises possible? Are they possible as we go forward without raising taxes? I do believe that, but they're possible because of what we put in place.
And based on your track record then, and from what you're saying, you would support that if it's economically feasible without raising taxes, you would support a pay raise for teachers and school service personnel?
I would, and the reason I would is not again, not a political answer at all, but I do want I'm a real believer. I told you in the beginning, I'm a real believer in public education. I'm a believer in what our teachers do. And you know, for crying out loud, I know we've got classrooms that we can't find a teacher to put a teacher in it. And we do need to be competitive with other states, and as our state prospers, and the other thing is, you know, and this is the craziest thing in the world, but it's just a fact. You know, if the teachers lose me, they're just shooting their foot off. You know, I mean, when it really boils right down to it, because I'm the economic engine. I'm the guy that's coming up with the ideas and absolutely causing the economic engine to run. And as the economic engine runs well, they have the opportunity to benefit from all those things, especially pay raises or PEIA being secured and all that stuff.
Governor, if I can, you talk about that economic engine. What's driving the surpluses so far year to date in the current fiscal year?
What is really driving the surplus, and Andy, this will really surprise you, but what's driving the surpluses is the engine in itself. I mean, when we went into COVID, well, first of all, 2019, how 2019 went. I could say, well, okay, well, why did 2019 go like it went? Well, the primary reason there is roads to prosperity. We were out building roads everywhere under the sun, and and all of a sudden, the whole image of West Virginia started to change. People started to come, whether it be, Hino Motors or whatever, Clorox or whatever. All of a sudden, there's starting to be construction here and there and everything, and a little bit of movement. Tourism is exploding like crazy, and we're bringing in all kinds of money from the standpoint of that. Higher ed's really moving, and WVU is doing great stuff. Marshall's doing a lot of good stuff too, and so all that's happening, and everything. Now along comes COVID and everything, and so then what you got to deal with, Andy, is just this. As far as what did we do? We looked like we shut the state down, and we never did that. We never, ever did that. I knew that. I knew that in my heart all along. We shut down where the people were. We shut down the hairdressers and stuff like that where the people were, but we didn't shut down the economic engine of the state. From the standpoint of construction or mining or Walmart or whatever it may be. And so we kept pitching off better numbers than we thought. Now, in all of that, you may say, well, did the CARES money save us? Did that save us? That's absolutely crazy. That's crazy to think that. And the reason that's crazy to think that is because just this is, we had about 103 or whatever, and it continues to go on now. But at the time of a cutoff, and it was back in April or early May or something, we had about 103 million. We chose to take 57 million out of CARES and replenish ourselves for that much, because we didn't need to take more. If we'd have taken more, we'd have just had a bigger surplus. And what we wanted to do is preserve all that CARES money, or as much of that CARES money as we could. So we took that and we replenished 21 million of the governor's contingency fund, where we had sent 100,000 to every county, which is 5.5 million. We sent all the money that had been going out to the National Guard. So we replenished that in the 57 million. But on top of that, there has really been a benefit from the fact that we've been able to balance out and keep the money stream within our state. Workers' comp, paying the people, the $600 a week thing, that was beneficial. All of it together is really just one thing. And if you miss this, you're missing the boat. The one thing is West Virginia's economy is diversified and solid. It's really solid. It's not the $600 a week. It's not the 57 million from CARES. It's the economy. Honest to God, and listen to me on this, guys, because I'm the business guy. I'm telling you, when the demand mongrel comes out of the house, you can't stop it. Really, most all the time, supply rules the day. But when the demand mongrel crawls out, and right now that's what you got going on. The demand mongrel is West Virginia. People wanting something in West Virginia. And it's come out of the house, and I'm telling you, it's going to go now.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, because some people say, well, the future, coal's dead or whatever the case may be. So if you're reelected, what's the future of economic development look like in West Virginia in terms of, is it coal? Is it natural gas? Is it high tech? Is it green energy? Is it developing a remote workforce? Or is it that current cultivation of diversity that you'll strive for?
Well, listen to this, and y'all gonna think I'm a smart aleck, and I sure don't ever be that. But you go in a restaurant and a waitress comes up and says, sir, do you like your eggs scrambled and fried? and you say yes, and really and truly, the key is diversification. I mean, I keep going back to this. Just think about just what I said way back in the debate in the primary, in the Democratic primary. I said, we got the 4 greatest seasons. We got the greatest people on the planet, they're craftsmen and everything else. We're located within 600 miles of 2/3 of the population, and we abound in natural resources, coal, oil, gas, timber, water. Now you just think about that. And when you start putting that whole picture together, I truly believe that we have not lost our days on the coal side. They probably won't be as great as they were at one time, but I'm going to tell you guys, you mark it down, a coal mine job is one valuable thing in this state. And really and truly, there will be an awful lot of coal mined in the decades to come. We have downstream petrochemical that is at our fingertips. We absolutely will finish our pipelines, and that will absolutely give us more and more growth from our natural resources. I truly believe if proposed properly, we're cutting 1/3 of our growth in West Virginia on our timber, 1/3 of our growth. That means that the trees are falling down way faster than we're cutting them. And when they fall down, the carbon that they have taken up is at some point in time released back into the atmosphere. So in other words, we could cut a few more trees, never cut anywhere close to our growth, and absolutely do better to our atmosphere than we're doing today. So you have unbelievable water, and now you have roads, and you have a way to get here. Tourism is exploding off the chart and will continue to do so. We have only touched the tip of the iceberg as far as tourism goes. But right behind every bit of that, and then I'll shut up, is just this, is now you have a major international company in Hyperloop that has picked West Virginia. Now, and with that, now you've got people that are ringing the phones like Boeing and Tesla and people like that. The universities and high tech is unbelievable. What the universities are doing is phenomenal, and you'll have growth there. But it is literally now, it on top of all that is become the place to do remote work. Broadband has got to be blanketed across this state. We've got a real plan for that. And before you know it, we're crying out loud, we're it, guys. I mean, this is a game of tag. We're it, no tag backs. I mean, that's it. It's really happening. And nobody's going to take it away from me. I mean, for crying out loud, I could lose this election, or I could get run over tomorrow, but nobody's going to take it away from me. I walked in with a team that was 0-20, and I've got us winning almost everything coming or going, and nobody's going to take that away.
Governor, you talk about economic diversification, and you shared a great plethora of examples in West Virginia that's going forward. One that I thought particularly, especially with your background in agriculture, do you see ag business having an opportunity to grow in West Virginia?
Andy, I sure do. And I hate to say it, it sounds terrible. Kent Leonhardt's doing great, and he's got a good many little things that are that are going, or things that are going and everything. But I'm the dreamer. I'm the imaginative guy, and I'm the big thinker. And Kent needs that with me. And to tell you the honest truth, with COVID and all the junk that's happened there, I just haven't gotten to it.
I understand. I mean, I'm not putting it out there as a criticism. Okay.
I know.
I'm just looking at it. I've always looked at it as an opportunity. and you're one of the nation's leading farmers.
Well, it's there, Andy. I mean, really, it's truly there. And the reason it's there is in agriculture, the number one thing you always got to have is a market. Well, we got the market within a rock's throw of us, and we got the climate, and we got the soils. Now, we don't have the soils and the climate and the land to be able to compete in growing field corn, you know, growing corn and competing against Iowa and Illinois. That's silly. That's absolutely silly. And we don't maybe have the land to grow the Valdeo onion, but we've got the land here to grow products that can be marketed to 2/3 of the population within a rock's throw of us.
Thank
Governor, let's transition a little bit back to COVID-19. And, you know, there's been a great deal of discussion, and you know, you're now doing 3 times a week press conferences, and every time it comes up, you know, back to school, the back to school metric, the Harvard map, the West Virginia map, as the case may be. Can you explain your reasoning for the map and the tweaks and where you think the state is now in response to COVID-19?
Yeah, you know, with everything as an inventor, and that's all we were trying to do is because this pandemic, we never had that playbook. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And we can sit back and say, well, you either go to school, you don't. You know, just let's blanket the state and go to school. Well, you know, I didn't think that was the right answer. Or don't go to school. I didn't think that was the right answer at all. You know, you got 75% of our people out there that want to go to school. Give them a choice. Give them a choice. That's the first thing we did. And the next thing is then look at the experts and listen to the experts. And we listened to all of ours. And not only that, we looked at the Harvard deal. And we said, well, this looks okay. In fact, this ought to work and everything. And then we get into the middle of it, and all of a sudden we find out that people basically are gaming the system, and they're not testing, because the more they test, the more they change their color in a negative way. And when they do that, you know, that just shoots ourselves right in the foot, because everybody then is saying, well, and look, in this one, I'm the one that came up with the idea. Nobody but me came up with this idea to absolutely add the positivity percentage to the equation. The reason for that is I had to find a way to motivate people to go get tested. You know, now look, when you're taking that rocket ship ride, if anybody thinks you're going to pull the right formula out of the deck on the first pull, they're crazy. You know, you have got to be able to tweak and change and move, and that's what we did. Now, we didn't tweak and change and move a lot or much or for long, considering how difficult the problem is. But really and true, what we've got is when we landed on getting the people tested, for God's sakes, 11 guys, from the standpoint of a ball game or school, don't even think about it. From the standpoint of motivating our people to go get tested and us finding those spreaders that are killing people, that's real stuff. That's real stuff. And so at the end of the day, you know, sure, it took a little time, and sure, anything like that's a little confusing and everything, but we've done good work there. Anybody that thinks it's the contrary is not thinking right.
Gentlemen, before we give the governor a chance to wrap up, do we have any follow-ups?
Well, Governor, I just wanted to ask you about yesterday's broadband announcement. You know, that's a huge number, billion with a B, as you said. Could you detail that plan and talk about how quickly you think we can actually, you know, from the conception of the idea to actually blanketing the state in fiber? How long do you think that'll take?
Well, it's argumentative, but what I'd like to see it absolutely done in my next term, hands down. I'd like to see it done. You know, I'm the most impatient guy in the world, Charles. I really am. And but you know, I think you will see an immediate significant impact within the next 12 months. And I really believe that in the next 36 months we'll have it done. But but it's, you know, it took that executive order. I mean, we were about, I mean, gosh, dog, I just can't believe, you know, how close we came to missing, not me, but just as a state. You know, people standing around saying, well, nothing you can do, nothing to do. My God, 11, I cannot believe that we were going to walk away from $800 million of federal money. And so we got that. We put some CARES money over there. We may even be able to put more CARES money over there. You know, we laid the maps over top of one another. We said, what do we have in broadband now? What do we have in broadband with the $800 million of the RDOF money? And then where are the holes? Where are still the holes that we need coverage and everything? We'll take 50 million and we'll put that toward the holes and everything. And so all of a sudden when you lay, you know, you really come up with something really good. And guys, that's the new highway. That's the new Roads to Prosperity deal. That'll really, really help West Virginia.
Governor, if I could, my one follow-up is, you mentioned earlier that you felt like the pipelines, the gas pipelines would be completed. So do you really think the Atlantic Coast Pipeline has a future?
Absolutely.
Good.
Andy, I think, you know, just like you mentioned about agriculture, where has all the focus gone? I mean, we have, now, you know, there's no way of really telling if the AOC or Bernie Sanders movement is real, you know, and if Biden is elected and all that kind of stuff is what really could happen. I mean, you know, barring something that is really beyond strange to me, you know, I really think if you look at our president, you know, we were really close. Our president told me point blank, I'm going to do your coal deal. The deal that I took to him that would incentivize Central App and Northern App coal, he said, I'm going to do it and everything. Or no, he said, we're going to do it. And then what happened? Well, you had impeachment, COVID, then all the protests and the rioting and everything else on the side. And then you got an election, you know. Well, before you know it, it's exactly, in a lot of ways, what's happened with the pipeline situation. You know, it's become to take a third or fourth seat, and it's the same kind of thing that's kind of happened in West Virginia with all the goodness that's gone on with maybe the agriculture idea. You know, it's a great idea. It just took, you know, there's just so much you can do at one time. And so I really believe that, in fact, I don't believe it. You know, if our president's reelected, we'll build those pipelines back in absolutely no time.
Thank you.
Well, Governor, at this time, we're going to wrap up, and in doing so, why don't you explain to the people of West Virginia why you deserve a second term?
Well, first and foremost, you know, West Virginia, I would say this, you know, what an honor. What an honor to fly with you during these 4 years. What an honor, really and truly, to have been tasked with the pandemic. I'm a believer with all my soul that the good Lord made me Jim Justice for a reason. I don't want anything for me in this. You know, I've done enough stuff for me. Really and truly, the opportunity to serve and to do the right thing. Stuff that our forefathers did, you know, the Thomas Jeffersons or the Ben Franklins or whomever, George Washington or whoever it may be. You know, they stepped up, did they not? Really and truly, they stepped up. I mean, you know, even our leaders throughout time, Martin Luther King, so on and on, they stepped up, not for themselves, but for something that they thought was for the better good of all of us. They did. They just did. And so with all that, you know, that's all I want to do. You know, if the voters decide something else, well, I've got plenty to do in my life. But absolutely, if they decide for me to continue, I'll give every fiber in my body. I don't go anywhere. I don't absolutely do anything but work. I love it with all my soul. Now, not that I don't laugh and have a lot of fun. I laugh and have a lot of fun in my life and everything. But at the same time, I love my work. I love what I'm doing. And all I want is just more and more goodness for West Virginia.
Governor, we thank you for your time and your service, and good luck in the future there. Thank you very much.
Thank y'all so much for all you do each and every day.
Thank you, sir.